I'm going to vote in favor of the ban.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Truman's Town Hall. My name is Matt Truman. Today we are going to break it all down from the last city council meeting and workshop. We're going to break it all down today. We come to you every Friday after the first council meeting of the month, and then we'll break it all down from there. So in February, when we come back, we'll have a couple more to bring to you. But today we're going to talk about what you just heard, the marijuana ban in the city of Huber Heights. That's right. They banned marijuana, and that deciding vote coming from the newly elected Mayor Jeff Gore, who we interviewed on Inspired and Admired before the election. That is what we're going to talk about, as well as the city manager contract. We're going to talk about some other things from the council meeting. And at the end, we'll talk a little bit about the Huber Heights City Schools. So what is Truman's Town Hall? Truman's Town Hall is to discuss what is happening in the city of Huber Heights government. So we'll talk about council, we'll talk about the city schools, and hopefully keep everyone up to date on what's going on out there. All right. Now, first, something interesting happened at the start of the first work session of the year. So, city council, it's called to order by the presiding officer at the time, Councilmember Smith. Then there was a motion to suspend the rules of council and have the newly elected Mayor Gore run the meeting. That's something that you may want to go back and watch. I don't know. I thought that was interesting coming in to the first work session of the year. So there is actually, coming into the new year, there's been a few things that has been controversial throughout the city. One of them being the city manager position, and if residency is required, the city voted that it was required, and then council has decided to move away from that for different reasons. We'll get into that. So they moved away from that, and they went to a renewal of a contract. So the city manager is retiring from, basically what it is he is out of the police fund for his retirement pension, and now is in the PERS pension fund for the city. So at the work session, after the seats had changed, Mr. Mayor Gore brought up a proposal to add 4 amendments to the new contract that they wanted to vote on for Monday night's council meeting. The changes were to remove the residency requirement. So that basically says what is in the charter doesn't matter. Number 2, take out the $24,000 that the city manager was going to receive for moving expenses and other things, and the retire and rehire, and add a 5-year to the contract, so 5-year agreement, and waive liability for any lawsuits from the past that could have been brought up, because there were letters from lawyers sent and potential for a lawsuit there. That's all on previous council meetings. You can go check that out. So the $15,000 was to, we'll get into that later too. But now, did council or did anyone negotiate the $15,000 to not even pay it out? I don't know that answer. It seemed like it was very quickly put out and then very quickly voted on, done, boom, and that was that. So what we'll do right here is I'll play you a little piece from the council meeting that talks a little bit about, it was from the discussion at the work session on the claim, the $15,000 and the potential claims.
Yes. Will it state somewhere, I mean, since we're just going to see the amendments and not actually the rewritten contract, will it state what the settlement is for? I still don't know what the settlement's for. Anybody know what the settlement is for?
It would be general language, which is release of any and all previous claims. I mean, that's what it was going to
You've
be.
instructed us there were no claims, though, Jerry.
I instructed you that there was no claims that I felt would have merit, but I still said it would cost a certain sum of money to defend those nonetheless. And we did talk about that dollar amount in the back.
Yes. Ms. Smith, yes.
Thank you. Okay, but Jerry, I am in the same impression that Mr. Otto is, and you said multiple times that there were no basis for any of the claims that had been filed, and that you specifically said that the same clause is in every single city manager's contract. It's just part of the thing. So I want to know, for the taxpayers, why are we paying out $15,000 for no reason? I don't understand that.
Kind of clarification. Whenever you have an employee who is leaving and then you're going to do a rehire, or even in the severance agreement, you would have a general release language. So that's the part that I said was in all contracts is the general release. In this case, we had some previously articulated claims that I said I think we would be able to defend, but it would still be I believe, nuisance suit, if you would, in my opinion, but it would still cost some money to defend. So those are the ones that we would be waiving. We would be putting an end to all those previous claims for the $15,000.
Did we pay the other city managers $15,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 when they left? And I know we've hired and we've retired and rehired other, police chiefs or what have you through the ranks. Is that a normal protocol to give them the same amount?
I wouldn't think so. Yeah, but there wasn't previously articulated claims.
Right.
That would be the difference.
And what I guess I'm trying to explain is that you've given this council the impression that there are no claims.
No, I said there's claims. I said the claims, in my opinion, are something that we would be able to defeat if we needed to. That it wasn't anything that we would have to spend a lot of money defending, in my opinion. But there would still be some cost to defending those claims if they were raised. And what we're doing now is we're securing a future without any of those things that happened in the past cannot come back up and be a basis for anything. So that's what that.
Okay, so it goes on. It goes on. It talks about all that. The conversation continues about what's the claim for and that sort of thing. So during the work session, and when the mayor brought out his proposal of amendments to the contract, he talked about some numbers. So he said for 5 years, the city of Huber Heights, with the city manager coming out of the police fund and going into PERS, they would save 5.5%, which equates to roughly $38,710. So what they did agree upon and moved forward with and voted on Monday was a 4-year deal. So with that 5 years and that number that the mayor gave, it's roughly $7,758 a year that the city would save. So in a 4-year deal, they would save $31,032. And with the settlement added into that, so you got to take away that $15,000, the city would save $16,032. So according to those numbers and with that proposal, that's a compromise that is saving the city money. So, it's kind of hard to really, truly be against that, in my opinion. Anything that saves the city money, I think, is a good thing for the taxpayers, and I think it's a good thing for the city. What I don't think is a good thing is the way we skirt around the charter. The charter was put out for a vote after the charter review, and then council does this where they, we're going to, in his contract, we're going to remove that out of the charter. And then that's the same meeting they swear an oath to uphold the charter. So that's where I disagree. That's my opinion. Now, the contract has been voted on. The city's going to save money. So my opinion may be very hard to one way, and then there's another opinion to the other way. So somewhere in the middle, compromise is good. So whether I believe one thing and somebody else believes another thing, if you're meeting in the middle with a compromise, I think is a good thing. And I think, well, the majority of council saw it that way on Monday, and that's the way they went. So, that's another thing I believe is that brings a big weight off of city council, the city staff, the city as a whole. The weight's lifted. Maybe city council did not do what the citizens wanted to do. You could probably say that. They voted in a way. Some argue that a lot of people that voted didn't know what they were voting for, or there wasn't enough people voting. But you can't go back in time, okay? The city voted one way. Anywho, it's over with. It's over with. Monday, they voted for the contract. So, it's done. That's over with. We can move on. We can move on from that. The city manager issue, at least for this city manager, now my dog's barking. At least for this current city manager, it's over with. So that's a good thing. There's things in there we can talk about and we could debate about and argue about, but in the end, that piece of the pie is eaten. Moving on to another topic that came up at the work session.
Ms. Burge.
Yes, I'd like to revisit some of the reasons why we initiated the medical marijuana moratorium. Medical marijuana was and still is not about whether it's medically beneficial. This is about the lack of concrete evidence that medical marijuana is in the best economic or social interest to our city. Both cannabis and CBD oil are still federal Schedule I drugs. There was at that time and currently is still no way to identify either the public health cost or the public safety cost associated with the cannabis industry. Many state laws relating to controlling, enforcing, and penalizing businesses in this industry are still vague or absent. As I was campaigning, I spoke with hundreds of residents that while some acknowledged the potential benefit of medical marijuana, they did not want it in Huber Heights. Medical marijuana will be available to our residents in nearby communities if they're prescribed the need for it. But our city needs to put this matter to closure. Thus, I recommend that we amend the medical marijuana moratorium ordinance to establish a ban on all forms of marijuana in Huber Heights and put this matter to bed.
So there you go. All out ban on medical cannabis. Now, the initial moratorium came after the Planning Commission voted unanimously in favor of allowing these businesses to operate within the city of Huber Heights. Then it was given back to council, and they voted after discussion for a moratorium because the explanation given at the time was they wanted to see how the laws and different issues from the state ironed out. Well, that came up January the 20th. That moratorium would have ended. So new council comes on, and it's proposed by Councilwoman Burge for a ban on marijuana. So no moratorium to figure out how the state is going to handle the rest of it. Just a ban. We don't want this in our city. I've talked to hundreds of residents that was said, but what was mentioned, but what wasn't taken into account